is I start to do, and I'm sure you've heard this before, I start to look at transferable skills. Okay, I'll look at Kaylin's resume and I'll think to myself, when I looked at your resume, I actually thought about this because you have a lot of art in your background. And I thought to myself, oh, well, I've got the creative piece here, and that could be really useful in terms of when I put you in front of a faculty member, and you know what that's like. When you're on the spot and you're all of a sudden demanding things, you're like, okay, tick, 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 how do I answer that one? But there's a potential to contribute. I like having that piece. What I have a harder time with is somebody who wouldn't know how to take something and run with it. And when I say take something and run with it, I mean in a responsible manner. And then your personal brand. Your personal brand would be how you're presenting yourself in your professional community, the things that you're doing to make that happen. And I know it sounds kind of strange, but even here you're doing that with your colleagues. I still keep in touch with a lot of people that I did my PhD program with through Facebook. But a lot of how we perceive each other and the way that we refer to jobs and all of that comes through from that piece. So I would say that those 3 to 5 items that we talked about are going to play themselves out here, and you get to start to see that there's lots of different ways to think about those strengths. And then the other piece that I think is really important for us to look at is this issue around what's going on with the market. And I've been in education for, gosh, I don't know how many years, maybe 20 or 25 years, 30 years. And just so you know, every time I've looked at the job market, it's always a tight job market. That's kind of what it is. But let's go back up to here in terms of wherever you can, if you're applying for jobs, try and find a job description. By the way, San Diego State's very good about literally putting the entire job description in most job postings. We go back and forth on this because HR will call me and they're like, James, we're going to add more to this posting. And I'm thinking to myself, nobody's going to read it. But just look at this and start to ask yourself, and you'll notice in certain areas there are themes. So if you're interested in working with offices of EOP, that when they have those counselor positions open, there are going to be themes around those. Or if you're in academic advising, or if you're in admissions, they all have very different themes or different skills that they look for. So be really cognizant of that, and notice that this one down here is different from the first page. These others were kind of similar to the first page. This is your personal brand, but you start to realize that when you go in and you're doing the job search, you're doing the interviews, the interview committee, well, the way it's set up in our offices, the interview committee puts forward the top 3 to 5 candidates to me, and then I get to make a decision based on that. And I actually meet with each of the candidates informally after their interviews. And this is what I'm looking for, is can I see this person on my team? And it's funny what you can find in a very short conversation. I would always say, don't be something that you're not. That's a double negative. Be who you are. Really, be who you are. But also, when I think about things like networking and being in an interview, is always be interested and interesting. The enthusiasm piece, so that the person can see that you're going to come to work and you're not going to be dead wood on the job. That's an important one. And then I'm guessing all of you are involved with something like a NASPA or a NACE or a professional association that's relevant to what you're doing. And this is kind of that point. This piece down here, I know we talk a lot about this from the career perspective, and everybody kind of gives us his advice, but every job I've ever gotten has been through a referral. It's amazing. Even this one at San Diego State. So I would say that make sure that people know you and make sure that they're talking in good ways about you. That would be important. So this is in terms of the market assessment. And again, it's just kind of merging those 2 areas that I mentioned earlier. I wanted to let you know that I did this workshop last year, and when Dr. Harris asked me to come back and do it again this year, I actually updated this document. So if you have this from last year, it's different. But what's similar is, if you take a look on page 2, there's a little insert box, and I just said with regard to student affairs, I should have put this on the front, but I couldn't find a place to stick it, so I stuck it on this page. from a hiring manager's perspective, and this is my perspective, is if I've got 2 or 3 candidates coming in for a career counselor position, and one of them knows technology, and the other 2 don't, I'm going to take a closer look at that person, because so much of what we do is tech. Everything that we do is technology. There's not really paper resumes except for at career fairs, and even those are kind of fake. And what I mean by fake is the employers take them, but really what they're going to do is ask you to go to their system and put something in electronically. So if you have that skill, or let's say you have budget skills, or you know how to use Excel, or any of that, let people know, because in an environment where we really are dealing in many respects with shrinking budgets, it's good to bring somebody on who can, in essence, do more than one thing. So I put this in here as you look at your resumes, because I wanted you to make sure that you saw that piece. The other piece that I wanted to put in was based on a program that we ran last year called Security Clearances. I'm guessing, Caleb, you know what a security clearance is? Okay. Does everyone know what security clearances? Yeah. Okay, good. Well, we offer that now for our STEM majors, science, technology, engineering, and math. That was one of the initiatives that we did. And I brought in the FBI, the CIA, Border, Homeland Security, the Defense Department, SPAWAR, and the basic message from folks from the CIA and FBI were, if you're going to get into a government job, and by the way, this is a government job, working in career services at San Diego State is a government job. You need to be aware of the fact that we pay very close attention, and we can go in and we can access your Facebook and those sorts of accounts, and we will use those. And we want you to also know that if you're doing like on some sort of political campaign thing, and we view it as anti-government, it will work against you in your security clearance. And the students were just amazed by that. I put that up here kind of in this first paragraph, where I talk about the fact that, I call it the expanded resume, that we used to think that, okay, my resume is this 2-page document, I'm going to give that to you, you're going to make all your decisions about whether or not to interview me on that. And I know this isn't news to you, but that's so not the case, So I'm going to talk to you about how you can make this thing look really nice and how we can work with it to get you a second look. But I want you to know that the look that most employers are taking these days is very broad. And especially the ones who, for example, recruit through a career center. I don't know that universities are caught up to that yet, but I think it's really only a matter of time. Anybody who comes to work for for San Diego State has to do a live scan. So that, when I came into the office 7 years ago, that wasn't the case. And a lot of people who apply for positions and the employers that we work with, they're all checking you out on Facebook. They go to their Facebook accounts. And I know it's being debated right now whether that should be legal or not, but they have what are called campus diplomats or ambassadors, and those ambassadors are your friends, and they're looking on your Facebook accounts. So it really is an expanded resume, and I wanted to offer those 2 caveats as we go through and look at resume basics. Okay. I'll just pause right now. Do you have any questions about anything I've said? Yeah.
So what would you recommend in terms of social media, how to manage that in an appropriate and professional manner and still have a life?
Be careful of who you allow to be your friend on Facebook. That's an important one. I would manage your professional life through your LinkedIn account. And if you're not on LinkedIn, you really need to be. Because many of your alumni associations, including San Diego State, are there. And if you want to be active in those chapters, to do that. It's kind of common sense sort of thing, that to avoid putting pictures or having pictures put of you holding a beer. And I'll use an example. I went through an institute at Harvard University last summer, and we were on a boat, and I had a beer, and somebody came and took our picture, and it's on Facebook, and it's not even on my page, but it ended up on my timeline. I was like, oh my gosh, here I am telling people not to do this, and this happened just because we were out on a cruise. It's kind of crazy, yeah. But I would say be really just be aware. Somebody asked me, I was presenting in an honors class yesterday. I got rid of everything on my Facebook account that looks bad. Can it still be viewed? And the answer is yes, because it's cached. That those are all stored and saved. So it's tough. It really is tough to obliterate. Did you have a question?
I was going to ask, can that be viewed as discriminatory?
Yeah, it can. It's a tough issue, yeah. Well, and it's invasive. And I just remembered this, I didn't ever follow up. I got a call from one of the Union Tribune reporters yesterday about the fact that they want to make it illegal for employers to require you to provide your Facebook information or LinkedIn information as a part of the job search. But they're doing it right now. Yeah. Yes, it can be all of those things, but you'd have to prove that intent. These are great questions.